for the Browns right now, man, like it's probably soul searching time, like regardless of what happened here and what's to come with any potential suspensions or findings, like I think it's a little bit of soul searching time. Like, what could we be doing differently when we get these guys in the building in terms of our messaging, but also in the pre-draft stuff, like with Quinshon, like meet with Ole Miss teammates, meet with guys that, could have been in his dorm hallway. Like, I think we've got to just dig deeper and really find out where we're going wrong in our evaluation and then where we're going wrong in our delivery. Because evidently there's something up here. Like you can't have, if it happens, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice. We're on through, fool me 3, 4, 5, 6 times with infractions like this. And we've heard it on the phones, 216-474-0092. Like, the fans have had enough, and quite candidly, like, I've had enough. I wanted to come in here today and do a fun show where we could have done LeBron watch and Rich Paul had some comments and talk about the Browns having potentially a better quarterback room than the Steelers.
The Guardians have started to win
baseball games. But here we are 2 hours into the show, and we're forced to discuss the Cleveland Browns because they've had not because they have a player that's out in the community doing some awesome work, because there are guys like Denzel Ward and Joel Bitonio and Joe Flacco who are doing great things and are great leaders off the field. But here we have to sit talking about yet another controversy where we hardly have any details or anything of substance to base our points and our arguments off of, because the guy that's projected to be the running back 1 September 7th at the stadium spent last night in a Florida jail. That's what we have to do for the first 2 hours of this show on a Sunday, is talk about somebody who spent his night in jail last night.
Yeah, we do. But there is something to be said for, as a young male professional athlete, be smart. Be smart when it comes to your money. Be smart with the people you surround yourself with. Be smart when it comes to female companionship as well.
Easy target. Right. You're young, you're vulnerable, you got a lot of money. Those are maybe that's what they should communicate to these young guys is, be careful who you're hanging around with, because whether you like it or hate it, and I'm sure a lot of those guys wouldn't want to hear, a lot of those guys wouldn't want to think of themselves as a vulnerable target, but they really are a bit of a target for people that want to take advantage of them, either in relationships or businesses or whatever the case might be, especially nowadays where you're coming into the league with a lot of money. Like, I think a big layer of the story here is that Judkins hasn't even signed his rookie contract yet. And this is a guy that...
Well, here's the thing now. How does this situation affect that? If you're Andrew Berry right now, and I certainly would not want to sit here and speak for Andrew, but if you're him right now, I don't know that I want to be guaranteeing all of that rookie contract right now based on this particular situation itself, because again, we don't know the circumstances of what may or may not have happened, what may have been alleged to have occurred. But right now, that's almost immaterial when you're just talking about the perception.
Yeah, all we know is that the team's starting running back spent last night in jail. Right. And if I'm Andrew Berry, I probably didn't do a somersault out of bed this morning knowing that was the headline that I read before I put my head on the pillow.
And Andrew would not be doing his job if that does not affect his decision-making when it comes to the structure of that rookie contract. The scale, the wages are set, but that doesn't mean all of it's got to be guaranteed. And, you haven't even gotten to training camp and there's already an issue. And again, don't know if Judkins did anything wrong here. Have no idea. All I know is that law enforcement in Fort Lauderdale went to a residence. They did a preliminary investigation and they felt that it was appropriate to arrest him and have him spend the night in jail. Those are the facts as we know them. That's not speculation. That's not opinion. That's not attacking him or being unfair to him. Those are the facts as we know them. Okay. And at some point, more detail will come out. But the reality is we don't know if he's going to be available week 1 now because the league is looking into this matter.
I think
the league is going to have to determine. And the reason I keep bringing up the Mike Hall Jr. situation is because that legal issue last year in which he was accused of doing some pretty ugly things in a domestic incident, okay, that was resolved outside of trial, okay? However, the NFL still stepped in and said, the legal process was the legal process, but our process says you violated our conduct policy.
Right.
And therefore, we are sitting you down for the first 5 games of your NFL career. And that's the point I'm trying to drive home. There is a very, very real possibility, Quinshon Judkins, regardless of how this legal proceeding and process pans out, okay, whether he's guilty, not guilty, whether it goes to trial, doesn't go to trial, whether or not whatever happened between the parties, whether or not they get back together and make up, whatever. All of that right now, I'm taking the legal bucket, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And I am setting that aside.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just speaking strictly from football.
The league bucket is
right.
what we're speaking into
now. The league bucket is the one that really super matters to the Cleveland Browns right now. So they're going into training camp not knowing who their starting quarterback is, and they got 4 dudes to pick from. I still think it's 2, but they say 4, so to let facts be facts, it's 4. And now they don't know who their starting running back is, and that is because of a situation that's out of their control, and it is a situation that their own player that they spent the 36th overall pick on got himself into. Fair or not, that's the reality. Quinshon Judkins got himself into that situation. And
dude, this is sticky. Like, they traded out of number 2 overall for number 5, number 36, and and the Jags number 1 next year. I have to imagine that number 36 overall pick that they used on Quinshon Judkins was a valuable piece of that deal. Ultimately, it was the future first-round pick that got that thing done and that got the Browns to fall back 3 spots. But I'm sure that they had Quinshon Judkins in mind when they decided during the first round of the NFL draft that they were going to fall back 3 spots. They were going to let the Jags take Travis Hunter at number 2 overall. They'll fall back to 5 and take the best player available, who happened to be Mason Graham out of Michigan, knowing that in the second round, they could turn around and get a high impact offensive player like what they would have had in Travis Hunter in Quinshon Judkins. Well, now you could potentially cross Quinshon Judkins' name off that list, at least for a couple of games to start the season. We're going to assume, we're going to anticipate that there will be some sort of disciplinary action that's taken. I wonder just how many layers deep this can cut, Daryl. Would this impact who the starting quarterback is week 1 for the Browns? Say they wanted to start Dylan Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders. Say that there was a piece of Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski that have a wild card in their back pocket that they want to see Gabriel or Shedeur in the training camp and preseason. And as long as they don't screw something up, they're the week 1 starter because they know that Stefanski has this QB-friendly offense with tight ends, with Jerry Jeudy, and a really strong run game.
I love that you feel the Browns are ready to commit quarterback malpractice, but go ahead.
Well, now but now that scenario, if that even truly was a scenario, it is pretty much in the garbage because you don't have a really strong run game anymore. In fact, your run game is back to a big red question mark. Like, this has so many more ramifications than just what we know on the surface when we flip things to the football field.
Well, Jerome Ford's role, I think, immediately expands.
Great. But don't we know what that is? Like, that's not something that's going to get Browns fans excited.
Look, I'm not sitting here saying thumbs up or thumbs down to that. I'm just explaining the reality of that situation. That if Judkins is not made available due to this incident, that's where the Browns most likely are going to. Sampson, I don't know, maybe he becomes the one, and then Ford, and then go into the pool of guys you were planning on cutting and maybe trying to sneak through to the practice squad from there. But you're right, there are football ramifications, and I know that seems a little insensitive considering the situation being what it is to bring that up. But that is part of this conversation too, that the football element matters. It comes into play. I think that Mike Hall Jr., had he not been suspended to start the season, I think he could have been a starter on that defensive line. So he kind of, for getting caught up in what he did, it cost him
and it
opportunity.
hurts the team, man, because we're talking about the Browns as an offense with so many questions, predominantly because of the quarterback situation. But the one thing that could ease any murky quarterback situation is a really strong run game. And that's when we've seen Kevin Stefanski and this Stefanski ball offense that we're getting back to operate at its highest point of success when they're running the football at a successful clip. And now even that's a question mark going into the season. Like, this is not good.